behalf of Jijnasa, thank you for making it this evening. We'll spend the evening listening to Sayer talk about sexual violence against women, the legal perspective and the way forward. She's a distinguished lawyer who's been working in this field for a long time. By qualification, she has graduated in law. She studied for a master's at the National Law School in Bangalore, where she topped the course. And post that, realizing there aren't enough professionals who are pursuing the cause of gender justice, she took it up actively. And therefore she brings a very rich experience with her, a practitioner's experience, so to say, which is very important to appreciate the challenges that we face today as a society when it comes to violence against women. This particular issue has come in our conscience in a big way following the Delhi rape case, though it is not the only rape in the country, but it has somehow woken the people out of their stupor. Unfortunate as it may sound, violence against women is very pervasive. It is in every strata of the society, and it happens at a very, very regular frequency. And it's not just an India-specific phenomena; it happens world over. But the reasons for violence against women could differ. They could be linked to the cultural aspects of any society, and I think that's where it will help to listen to the experience of Ms. Iyer. So without wasting any more time, I would invite her to address us, and post her address we will have the floor open for audience question and answers, and hopefully the discussion will set a tone for us to understand this issue in more depth and perhaps with more sensitivity that is required to handle and understand an issue like this. So, welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me to address on sexual violence against women, legal perspective of women. And the way forward. And as rightly said, suddenly the country has woken up to the fact that a woman can be brutally assaulted, sexually and otherwise, and nobody does anything. The whole system we see has failed. We require the media, both social media as well as the regular media, to wake up and bring this to the conscience of the country, for us to wake up and raise our voice against what has been happening for ages now. It is not, as Amit rightly put it, this is not the first time. And even though this has woken us up, we also see that reporting of more such incidents, maybe not as brutal as this, but then at regular interval, it is being reported. Today, NDTV says that in 2012 there were 700 incidents of rape reported in Delhi. So such being the case, we just wonder what the position of a woman is. Here I am going to stick only to violence against women. We wonder what the position of a woman is. Culturally speaking, when we take our country, we see that during the Vedic period, a woman was given a lot of respect and her place was exalted. We see a lot of scholars. We see women like Lopamudra, Gargi, and so many others, Maitreyi, Aditi. All of them have contributed to what the Rig Veda is as we see it now. So when women were given that place, there are people who say that from there started the decline of the position of women. We see that some talk about Manusmriti, saying that there is that line in Manusmriti which says, Stri Nastri Swatantrya Marhati. But then we also have to see that in Manusmriti, we see that there is a phrase which says that where women are respected, gods are happy.
Just the next line.
Yes. So, we cannot say that it is because of what we have inherited that women occupy this place. But it is not just in India that the erosion in the position of women has occurred. As we see even in Germany, the place of a woman was considered to be church, Kinder, and kitchen. That is Kinder, Kusche, and Kishe, Kusche, Kinder. Means kitchen, church, and children. That was supposed to be her sphere of activity. And we see that such a position was there even in UK, and of course we have got a lot of our laws and everything that we have inherited from the English Commonwealth laws. So the position of women as it was is not, the position of women in the Vedic era was very high, after which, due to various reasons, we see that there has been a derogation in the position of women, and she has been subjected to a lot of violence, different kinds of violence, and we see that the Constitution of India, when it came about, it assured equality to women, which is a cornerstone, which we see as a turning point in the laws that govern women as we see them today. The causes that we see as to why this kind of violence in different spheres, physical, mental, psychological, economic, social, political, everywhere, she was considered to be a step lower than the superior species, the man. So, when that was how it was, we see that there were a lot of reasons, a lot of causes why she was occupying, why she has been given this place. We see that some causes are when there was a need to exercise power and control. A need. Some causes apply even today. And sometimes a woman does something. The violence is meted out to just teach her a lesson. And it is perceived that by meting out such violence, which may not be considered violence, it may just be thought that it is only teaching her a lesson, she undergoes actual humiliation, by which they feel that the end is met. And the distorted concept of manhood, where a man is always thought that he should be in a position to dominate and subjugate a woman. And when children grow up in families where they see violence everywhere, so that also contributes. Then through verbal threats and intimidation and violence by example, as I said, the father beats the mother, the son learns that he should beat the wife to ensure that the family life is smooth. And another reason that we see is the psychological makeup of a person, the wiring, as we say, in the brain, which goes a little off wire. That also causes meeting of violence by men. I'm talking about this violence in the wider space, and this could be taken as the causes for sexual violence as well. And poor self-esteem in the man, that also plays a role of ensuring that we have a society where we have all these problems. And alcohol and substance abuse also is one of the, these are some of the causes. Now coming to sexual violence per se, I would like to know what it is that you understand by sexual violence.
Molestation, domestic violence, against celebration, maybe the worst cases like what we have in Delhi. Those are some of the things against women that
outraging the modesty of women.
No, I think sexual violence is essentially more about exercising power, and sexual abuse is just a manifestation of it in some way, is my understanding.
Any act where there is, where there is involvement in a physical act without the girls or without the women's consent is a violence. So when it comes to physical attributes, it is sexual violence.
Not only physical, so eve teaching, etc. also comes in sexual violence. Any women's cannot depend on women's eve teaching, and they are passing comments. They can also, they cause a lot pain to girls. They also come under sexual violence.
But there is no violence involved.
Mental, there is harassment, and that comes under violence, right?
In my opinion, this need not be very physical and very visible. It could be psychological killing also. That will have a disastrous effect. Even creating a psychological phobia that he is going to do something. Phobia itself is enough for a woman to suffer, in my opinion.
Sexual violence actually can be overt or covert. They can be physical, as we see in cases where it is reported, or it can even be just a glance which might cause a kind of fear in the woman that some assault is going to take place. So that also is part of sexual violence. Any way in which a woman feels violated sexually because of the fact that she is a woman, that constitutes sexual violence. And it can be seen in all spheres, anywhere. When you travel by bus, a man brushes your shoulder intentionally. There is nothing more than brushing of shoulder. But that also can constitute harassment. Hence it falls within the realm of sexual violence. Or brushing of the fingers. Or looking in a way which causes some kind of a disturbance or discomfort in the woman. All these can form, but in that mode, as rightly pointed out, in cases of physical violence, physical violation of a woman, it is easier to prove. Whereas sexual harassment of other nature, where it is only passing of remarks, where there is nobody else to talk about that, or even slightly brushing the person of a woman. Such acts are very difficult to prove, and they can have devastating effect in the psyche of the woman. We see that sexual violence as such has been dealt with in the Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code has various sections where it talks about sexual violence. So section 376, 375 and 376 are about rape. There it also says that matrimonial rape is not rape as per section 376A. Sorry, 376A is deals with rape during judicial separation. So only there it recognizes rape within the matrimonial relationship. Otherwise, IPC does not recognize any kind of sexual violation within a matrimonial relationship. But we have the Domestic Violence Act, which governs women in a domestic relationship with others. There, if the husband imposes himself on her without her consent, then that constitutes a sexual violence as under that. So there is a contradiction. Within our own laws, we have contradiction. There we have this. But then, Domestic Violence Act does not prescribe any punishment except that the woman can get protection orders, she can be sent to a shelter home and such. But no punishment like imprisonment or penalty as laid down in the Indian Penal Code. And IPC also has prescribed 7 years as of now. It is 7 years imprisonment, which can go up to life imprisonment. And in case of rape of a pregnant woman or a child below 12 years, then the punishment is from 10 to life imprisonment. So such is the punishment as laid down in the IPC. And we also have the other sections where in a hospital the doctor or a woman who is there is sexually abused by the doctor or whoever is there in the hospital under whose custody she is. And we also have custodial rape. All that is dealt with, or buying and selling of minors, and unnatural or carnal kind of violence. So those are dealt with in IPC, though we have now come to a point where we discuss as to whether the punishment that is prescribed by the IPC, whether it is proper, whether it is commensurate with the kind of offence that is committed. And we also have section 354, which talks about violence with an intention to outrage the modesty of a woman. And we have the Domestic Violence Act and Indecent Representation of Women Act and the PITA, that is Prevention of Immoral Traffic Act. So these are also acts, statutes which deal with sexual harassment of women. I divide sexual violence into 3 spheres. One is where the victim would know the perpetrator or the person who commits the offence. This kind of violence can happen in family, close family, friends, neighbors, relatives, and acquaintances. In such a scenario, but then we see that 90% of rape is committed by persons whom the victim knows. We also see a high incidence of rape within family which goes unreported for various reasons. Various reasons like one wouldn't want what is there in the house to come out, the stigma attached is there all through. Then all the difficulties that the family might have to undergo, that is one aspect why rapes within close relatives do not come out. And the second aspect is violence at workplace, sexual violence at workplace. Here, the right of women to work with dignity without threat of sexual harassment should be guaranteed to her, which sadly is not all that all right now, but then due to the proactive direction given by the Supreme Court in 1997, we see that a lot of committees are set up all through different offices and different places of work where we have the sexual harassment committee which hears matters of in any kind of sexual violence, and this was given in the case of Vishaka. Vishaka had filed this case in the Supreme Court. Vishaka was an organization. There was this lady called Bhavri Devi who who was a part of a self-help group,
Rajasthan, right?
Rajasthan,
Yeah.
Rajasthan,
1997.
97 Supreme Court. She prevented some child marriages from taking place, and that offended the heads of the village who gang raped her. From this came about the judgment in the famous Vishaka case in the Supreme Court, where various guidelines were laid down to ensure that a woman could work with dignity at workplace without worrying. A lot of safeguards had to be provided by the employer, and the employer became responsible for the woman. And the third one is violence by strangers. Here, we don't see that there is anything like the punishment or a boy liking a girl and then she not responding and he going and abusing her. This, in the cases where there is violence by strangers, it is normally the instinct. Instinctively, a woman is there, she is there at that time and she becomes a victim. And we see that the challenges that are there for any victim to get justice or anything is that the court procedure, the whole trial is very long drawn. The victims find it very difficult to discuss even what has gone through them and what they are going through due to societal pressure. And when it is within family, it is just buried like that. Even though in my experience as a lawyer, when people come and tell me that such a thing has happened, there was a girl who came and told me that her brother-in-law was abusing her. And she had to go and stay in the brother-in-law's house to take care of her sister's children because her sister was away at work. Her parents would not agree on her not going to their house. And she could not tell her parents because she will be talking against the son-in-law. She was a total psychologically affected, and she had gone into deep depression. When she came to me, I referred her to a psychiatrist for help. She did not want any action taken against her brother-in-law because there would be a disruption in the family, and she would not even discuss all these with her family members. So she is, even after all this treatment, she is going back to the same place. So we wonder how we can bring such people out. And when the isolation is also one of the fears that women have when they have to report about sexual abuse. And we also see that nobody is sensitive when someone reports that they have undergone any kind of sexual abuse. We don't see sensitivity from anybody, be it the public, be it the police, medical, the doctors. There is no proper aftercare. And when it comes to the court, the lawyers, the prosecutors, the judges, nobody is sensitive. When a woman undergoes sexual violence, that is just the beginning. That is just the beginning of the trauma. She undergoes the violence each and every time. Every time there is an inquiry, she undergoes the trauma over and over again. And we see that the medical field too, they have certain they have some ways of testing which is absurd, and any person with dignity. Once that test is done, they would want to drop all charges of rape and go back. Because we still follow, even in Karnataka, we follow the two-finger method, where a woman is tested if she has had previous sexual experience. How that has any impact on whether she has been sexually abused is something that we have to think about. It is what rape is about sexual violence without the consent of the woman. It is not about whether a woman is married or whether she has had any sexual experience. That is not what has to be actually looked into. But then the way the medical examination is done, it is very demeaning to a woman. And the way forward for all this would be, first thing is the laws. We have to ensure, I don't think a separate rape law is required at all. We just have to make requisite amendments within the IPC. We have IPC which is there. So just make we have been amending IPC to suit our convenience. Just amend the acts which are there, maybe increase the punishment, make it a little more watertight, and ensure that there is speedy justice done and there is sensitivity everywhere. Sensitivity cannot come in law, it has to come from within. So that is also required. And when we look at laws, and the demand has been for setting up of fast-track courts. Some courts have already been set up, fast-track, for rape victims' cases to be heard. But we forget that first fast-track court at the lowest level is only the first step. After that, we have the High Court and then we have the Supreme Court. There is a report of a girl who was raped in Kottayam in Kerala, whose case is in the Supreme Court. It is, I think, 30 years.
Suryanandi?
I'm not aware of the name.
There was one sex parlor case also.
And against a minister.
There are a lot of people. It was a gang rape. She was taken to a
Sex
40
parlor
people
case.
were involved according to
2005.
Yes, Suryanandi.
Yeah, Suryanandi.
she is
Film actors were also.
involved in that. So it is stuck in the Supreme Court now. It is stuck in the Supreme Court. So we talk about fast tracking at the first level. Should there not be fast tracking at all levels, so that she doesn't live the life of a victim? And we give names like rape survivor. But that is just what the society gives. But she is a victim, because she is a victim through all these phases. She might have survived that ordeal, but the society does not spare. If she is a victim, she is a victim. All through. So that mindset has to change. Unless that changes, we cannot just call them rape survivor. She will remain a rape victim. And for quick dispensation, we have to also ensure that there is in-camera proceedings so that there is no other disturbance, and moreover the privacy of the victim as well as the proceedings is totally maintained. And to give anonymity wherever required. This IPC guarantees anonymity. It prescribes punishment for anyone who reveals who the victim is. So anonymity is there, but still when it is within a society, we see that the anonymity part just gets diluted and she becomes a victim and is a victim.
And the people who committed will be walking around
Free.
They have no shame.
What about Aruna Shambhag's case? Aruna Shambhag's case, we only talk about euthanasia. We don't talk about the fact that she actually survived, yes, and she is suffering the after effects of a sexual assault.
And the person
Yes. So we wonder what is this, because the maximum punishment he would have undergone and he is out.
7 years ago.
14.
No, no, life imprisonment. Even if it is life imprisonment, because of good behavior and all, then he is let out.
I gather that in dowry cases, in dowry harassment cases, if the involved people have any government job, they'll be suspended from the job. Is that
If
right?
they are convicted.
Oh,
If
so
they
there
are
is, the
convicted.
clause is convicted, not accused.
Yes.
And how do you handle the cases where juveniles are involved? Like the Delhi rape case, it's a
Juveniles, it's a big problem area because we call certain people juvenile while they commit acts which definitely is not juvenile.
because the youngest father is a UK who is just about 13 years. I mean, if you are mature enough to be a father at the age of 13, and you might as well reduce the juvenile age to 13 or maybe even 11 or 12.
So there should be, even in the laws, there should be some kind of what do you say, reasonable. We have something called reasonable restriction, like that. An exception should be made. An exception should be made for offences which are grievous. We see in the Delhi instance that the person who calls himself a juvenile, he was supposed to be the person who has committed the most horrible and the most heinous of whatever acts on the girl. And he was singly the reason for her death.
Regarding the Delhi anti-rape case, is there any possibility of juvenile being juvenile brought to the
Unless there is a change in the legislation, no, there is no retrospective effect. But if that is brought in with retrospective effect, then yes. Otherwise,
So then there is also this question about the death sentence to the rape convicted. So what is your viewpoint on this? What does the law say? Because there are some.
The law does not prescribe death for rape.
Is it possible to amend the law?
They are asking for it.
Correct.
A lot of people have sent in such a request to the JS Burma committee. But my personal view is there should not be a death sentence for a rapist, because if the punishment for murder and for rape is the same, how much time will it take for him to wipe away the evidence? He can wipe it off.
Yeah. But actually,
But here, that much evidence also goes down.
Correct.
There should not be death for rape unless it is couple. Of course, here in the Delhi case, definitely it has to be death. No two ways about it. Because she is dead. Yes, she is dead as a murder.
yeah, actually, my saying is right. For rape alone, death should not be a penalty.
Yeah.
But if it is rape and death, wherein the
Then
victim
murder comes in.
then murder comes in,
Murder
and
comes
then that should definitely mean death,
Yes.
which is like the rarest of the
But
rare
then,
case today.
When you actually look at the justice dispensation system, you talk about death being one of the punishment, life imprisonment, which can be death in case of murder. How many people, how many murderers are convicted and handed over death penalty? Not many. Not many. Same way, even if you have death as one of the penalties for rape, it is possible that she
We have this ambiguous doctrine called rarest of the rare, but I think that is the flaw here. You must have a law which mandates that.
Provided there is rape and death.
The problem is now we have this sort of this ad hoc thing called rarest of the rare. So the judge can do whatever he wants.
rarest of the rare has been there all through.
But what we want is a law which we want death to be incorporated in law
For
rape and murder.
rape and murder, automatically it comes in. We don't have any confusion on that, because for murder,
Yeah, but
punishment is
again, the phrase "rarest of the rare" becomes the operative phrase,
Yeah, we
right?
don't want that.
Actually, the idea is to unequivocally say in law that if there is rape and there is murder,
it should
then
be
it should be only death. So the judge does not have the leeway of saying, okay, this is rarest of the rare, but maybe not as gruesome, which warrants a death, so I will give you a life imprisonment.
That is something I think is wishful thinking, which may not happen.
And that's the question actually. That's
in current society, rape is a lifelong suffering for a lady. So there should be a lifelong punishment. That punishment is not lifelong. Maybe for just 1 month or whatever, till the time he is hanged. He must be means life imprisonment is a better thing, and there should not be any acquittal for good conduct. Life imprisonment means he should be convicted for his full life, useful life.
Rigorous imprisonment.
Yeah,
I mean, let's hold on to that, but I will come back to this death penalty itself, right? So, what is the legal perspective on what you said? Like, it's wishful thinking. What is the legal perspective? What are the legal hurdles there, and what are the what is the perspective from legal?
In criminal law, one has to be proved guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
Right.
Okay. One has to be for him to be convicted. There will be a lot of other reasons, other evidences, which would actually mean that the entire case is slightly diluted.
Okay.
So in such a case, what happens is the judge uses his discretion and says that this has happened because of these contributory reasons, for which the person convicted is not the reason, but then he is convicted because he is the person who has committed that crime, and there is mens rea. Mens rea is important. Mens rea is intention, criminal intention to commit the crime. That being there, then what they do is they don't award death penalty. They probably scale it down to life imprisonment, which after some time, due to good behavior and all that, they let off.
These are like the loopholes. But actually, as a citizen, as a common person, what we understand law is like something which teaches a person a lesson not to commit the same mistake. For example, just taking a small baby, we all know that if he eats a chili, he'll suffer. So we try to prevent that baby from not eating the chili. But sometimes some parents say, let him eat once, next time he'll not do it. Okay, so in case of adults and mature people, the law has to act like that, like teaching a person not to commit the same mistake again, because he has to understand the pain the victim has gone through. Now, in case of rape and in case of rape and death, in case of rape, the female is psychologically harassed completely for her life, throughout her life. There is nothing that can be revoked. There is no provision of setting things right again. Okay. Nothing can be erased again. So it's a memory, it's psychologically affected, though the physical injuries might disappear after some time. But in case of rape and death again, what I personally feel is that the victim has to be made to suffer for such, for the extent of which he made the victim to suffer. And after that particular, the duration, he can be awarded a death sentence, so that all throughout he understands what the victim has gone through only because of him. So this is actually a very strong point where, when the situation comes that when it transfers from that phase where he has realized what he has, the brutality that he has committed to the victim, and then in between the death sentence again, if he asks for pardon and if he really repents, then probably there might be some laws or some act based on his behavior.
Who decides that he is reformed?
I think that's where
Exactly.
that's where the issue of chemical castration is being
Just
talked about.
recently, a person was released on parole. He was let out on parole. When he was let out on parole, he went and he committed another sexual offense. And
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm asking you because you're a person of law. I'm not a person.
So there are different theories of punishment under the criminal law, criminal jurisprudence.
Because instant death doesn't make that person realize what he has committed. I feel so.
So you want the person to suffer?
Yes, of course.
Chemical castration.
Person must suffer.
Yes.
Chemical castration could turn him into a more violent.
Brutal,
More
yeah.
violent
Yes.
person.
A more violent
And
murder.
actually speaking,
Yeah.
if he wants it is here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's an issue that can never be turned off because once, as you said, it's a self-realization and he has to understand that, okay, he's made a mistake and if there's ever a guilt feeling in him, he will probably correct himself. that exactly is the agenda of giving him a life imprisonment or even a 7-year imprisonment. Just that he has been put in a place where
personal
he
view,
can
not
sit.
as a lawyer, my personal view is, if he has committed such a heinous crime, why give him a chance to reform? What are we going to do?
Ma'am, apart from the laws, what can be done to prevent such incidents? What can be done to prevent such incidents?
Yeah, I'll come to that.
Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and talk.
Just one question, actually, because your definition of a rape, it hinged on the concept of consent. So because I'm just not trying to think.
No, that is not the entire definition of rape. That is just a part of it.
Okay. So I mean, proving or disproving consent is not going to take the case any which way.
Actually, it depends on the victim. If the victim says that she did not consent to that, then the onus of proof shifts automatically on the accused.
Okay, so victims testimony is put on bigger threshold.
One more thing here. We've been reading latest reports and all that, I mean, the government is planning to amend the constitutional law saying that the juvenile age has to be decreased to whatever, number X. Okay, so why hasn't this been thought of earlier? Because in this rapidly changing world,
We have something called the Juvenile Justice Act. That's a different thing altogether.
okay.
I'm concentrating on women now. That's right.
No, doesn't that come, I mean, fall into the section also because of the Delhi candidate case?
No, it is not retrospective in effect. As of today, juveniles are dealt with in a very soft approach.
Yeah.
Soft approach is given to them. And for all we know, that juvenile might be out in another 3 years. Okay, and
Small. I used to read reports in the newspaper saying that juveniles who cross the age bar of 18, I mean, once they cross the age bar of 18, even if they are 3 months before 18 years, they are let off after 18. Is that true?
if they are,
No, suppose if they are committed crime at 17 and a half years, and if they are mandated to serve a 3 years reform in juvenile
right now, no.
right, so they have to serve 3 years.
See, you are punishing him for an act that he committed at that time. Our laws do not recognize on retrospectively punishing him.
So the maximum punishment is 3 years.
So we'll go ahead with the talk and then hold on to our questions for later.
The way forward is, I just started with that. And here we're talking about the life sentence. Life sentence, one of the people who were demanding for life sentence, one of their arguments was that they would, this will help in ensuring that there is no repetition, or another person would learn from it. It will become a deterrent, that it is a deterrent theory to the commission of crime. Deterrent, but then there have been instances where we see in some European country where for pickpockets they have prescribed hanging in the China also. They had prescribed, but then what was seen was that when there was public hanging, there were pickpockets. So we see that whatever the punishment is should be proportionate to the crime committed. So that there we have to see whether rape warrants a death sentence and what it would give the society. Here we need not consider, or we need not think about the accused as much as what it would do to the victim as well as what it would do to the society. And the chemical castration. Chemical castration is one of the punishment which was mooted, which was actually spoken about by one of the political parties, but then when they gave the report to Verma committee, chemical castration is not there in that. So, and make prosecution strong. We should make the prosecution so strong that the accused does not escape if he is guilty. What happens normally is, because of lack of prosecution, there are a lot of ways in which the accused escapes punishment, and the victim also does not go through the entire trial and gives up halfway, which contributes to the prosecution not being strong. And proper enforcement also is very much required, which is one area where we lack. And the second department is the police. The need of the hour is sensitive police who are sensitized and who respond in a way which makes them more human than what they are. Appointment of more women in the police force would be very much required, so that women don't hesitate going to a police station. And police should be made to take any complaint seriously. And we see that police don't take many complaints seriously. They say, just go patch up, you will be put to difficulty. I have seen many of my clients who go to the police station being told that, no, don't complain. You will be the ones who suffer. So they are dissuaded. That shouldn't happen. They should take the complaint seriously and then probably counsel them if required. But you never know which case is serious and which requires police help. And police should also be told as to refer to medical help as and when required. There should be audit of police, their work and how serious they are in responding. Audit is required, audit of police, and special cells in police station for women. It is difficult for any normal citizen to break the idea of going to the police station, to break away from the stigma of approaching the police. So that also would be very much essential. That will happen when the police is sensitive. When they are sensitive, it automatically makes people go to them more often when required. Then, as I told earlier, we need the doctors to be sensitive, and they have to make medical examination of the victim as incident or horror-free as possible. And in case of married women, as I said, it really does not matter whether she has had sexual relationship with anybody or not. When she complains of sexual violence, what has to be seen is if the police, if the doctors can get any forensic evidence. That is what they have to look at. Not vouch for the woman, or not vouch for the character of the woman. That is not what the women, doctors are for. We do know that doctors would be called in for cross-examination and all that goes into trial. But here we see that doctors have that feeling that they don't want to go to the court. Even doctors who are experts, they do not want to go to court, so they bring in some kind of element where the woman's character is questioned and it dilutes the case. And criminal investigation should not affect or further damage the dignity of a woman. We see that the recent gang rape case in Bangalore involving a law student, there in the medical examination it was told that her vagina was elastic. Means what is that? What has that got to do with the offence?
It's actually offensive.
That itself is an offence.
It's a national law school thing, right? National law school campus.
Nepali girl, right?
And we also see that there is a role that can be played by local government, the panchayat, at the panchayat level too, where preventive mechanisms are put in place. They can educate women and men, and awareness raising amongst local, in the workplaces, and proactive complaint committees can be set up with the participation from all people, the police, the social workers, politicians, and everyone. And we also see that there is a role that media can play. We can have, like we have for the cigarette smoking, we have a statutory warning. So in case of any harassment or any remarks being passed against a woman or a sexual violence shot being shown, a message can be given which says that this will attract an imprisonment or a term of
in the movies
that
and
in movies and others that can come. That will also help in sending across a strong message. And indecent representation of women should not be tolerated. So we see so many advertisements where women are not required at all. But then
Almost every.
car paint.
Like this Mintra.com,
Car paint.
where the woman, she wears too many clothes and she comes and strips on the street.
it's not required. So these are some of the areas where media can play a role, and radio.
Just
can-
one question on that. So when we say that representation of women should be taken care through law, like what you're saying, right? This is a very ambiguous sort of thing.
Ambiguous, and it is very subjective.
Yes.
What I feel
So-
indecent may not be indecent for you.
Absolutely. So in that particular case, right? I mean, how do you? Who should have the responsibility, or for that matter, is it even just to put in such kind of a rule that you cannot represent, you cannot use women in your advertisements because it can create all sorts of things, right?
No, it is just about representing a woman. That's all. It is not representation of a woman in a particular thing. It is not saying that indecent representation of woman causes a man to commit a crime. No. It is only to change the mindset that a woman need not be commodified. That's all. It is not about what can, in 85, it was told that Doordarshan news readers should not wear sleeveless clothes. So that was considered to be indecent. Then, in 84 or 85. And everything in the Victorian era, the exposing of ankle was considered to be what is called sexy. And we also have an instance where they say that the sheikh was going along with his wives in a caravan. His eldest wife's camel tripped and fell, and her clothes went up. And what she did immediately was she covered her face. The sheikh was very happy because they consider that showing the face is the most indecent. So it will vary from culture to culture, and from time to time, and from individual to individual. And we cannot say that if you're coming to that, it is about the girls wearing in clothes in a particular way calls for a sexual attack.
Yeah, so that's ridiculous, right?
That is hilarious, because we see that old women and young children, babies who are 3-4 months old, are assaulted. That is ridiculous.
And that's also ridiculous because men have also been commodified with acts now.
Oh yeah, now.
You don't see rapes of men.
I agree on that. But then maybe times are changing.
Maybe, do you think India should change a little bit? And like West, they should start, I know it's a little crazy idea, but they should start stores to sell sexual toys and others. Maybe some of these people who are assaulting children, due to maybe they must have watched some porn movie or something, In those cases, at least they can use some toys and spare a girl, right? Do you think that's an idea?
Again,
don't think
it
it's
is a
working.
subjective thing. Do you actually need a sex toy?
No, the point is
But
in
the
the
person is
West.
needing a human, so I think maybe a toy is better than a human.
No, the point is that in the West, all these props are available, but still there are crimes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's about the props, and I don't think it's about the availability to vent out your energy, but it's just about a mindset, and it's also about social bringing, social conditioning, and it's very complex. I don't think it's, let me give you this so that you'll be happy.
I think the rape cases in US and in Germany are pretty high compared to India.
So the mindset will change only after a generation. It will take
But
a lot
right now, what?
Yeah, right now what do you do?
It's
It's
so
so
much
much happening.
But the fact
I did
is,
some study on that. Almost 58 women are assaulted. Rape cases are registered for 58 women every day. It's been happening for the last 8 years, and some people say in India, 1 in 8, 1 in 10 may even get reported. The others are not getting reported.
Yes.
So we have a big problem now. So what?
No, I mean, I let.
Even movies glorifying heroes who rape women, that is also a problem.
Yeah, message should be sent across that such a thing. Maybe it is required for the movie, for that particular setup. But then when that is there, just like how we have now got the statutory warning being displayed, we should have this message sent across. That is my view. And there is a big role that a family plays in ensuring that the mindset is proper. And the family is a place where you protect and nurture and ensure that that mindset continues even when the person goes out in the society and in the family too. And one thing is that women, children, be it girls or boys, here I'm not making any differentiation. They are taught to be, they are to ensure that they do not allow anybody apart from parents or maybe their doctors to touch them in certain in their private parts. That is one thing that can be told in the family, and to be aware of strangers, because children normally are lured with a chocolate or a fruit or a toy, and they become victims of such and what is required in families is that they should not differentiate between boys and girls. That we see in our culture, that there is definitely a difference shown between boys and girls, that girls can do these things, boys cannot do these things, and boys should protect the girls. Then one instance was, I asked my nephew to accompany my daughter. It was 8 o'clock, where we stay, street lights are not there. She had to go to get a pen. So I asked my nephew to go with her to the shop and get the pen. She asked me, are you not sending a wrong message to him that I need protection? Absolutely.
Wow.
On the similar lines, I should say something. So since you're talking about family values, cultural background, societal aspects, all these things and all, just very practically based on what you just said, I would like to give another example where since you said boys and girls have to be treated equally, but now when a daughter-in-law comes home, okay, mother-in-law looks at the daughter-in-law not as a daughter-in-law, as English quotes, because we have addressing daughter-in-law in different ways in different languages. Okay, only English is a language which uses daughter-in-law, but she is never a daughter. Okay, according to even the person is a law person. Okay, so the mother-in-law looks at the daughter-in-law as a son's wife, or someone who has come to snatch her son away, or someone who has come to snatch everything away from her. Okay, so what she does is, based on my personal experiences and circumstances around, she uses the son as a tool to suppress and control the daughter-in-law in every way possible. Sexual violence is again one of the tools. So here, what I feel is women are also somewhere responsible for assaulting women, fellow women. Okay, now here, this lady being an elder, she has to act according to her age. But no, that maturity, that sensibility is absent. She is trying to take the son's power, and probably his masculine strength, to keep his wife in control.
Subjugated.
Yes.
See, all these conditioning, when it happens, probably in the next couple of generations, we can expect families
Exactly.
where mothers-in-law are mothers-in-law.
Yes. So English is the language only which describes a relationship with beautiful words. But again, here what I would like to bring to notice is this might be a case of domestic violence. Definitely yes. But when the daughter-in-law goes to report it to the police station or to any for some guidance or for some mentoring, what is the guidance or the mentoring that she is subjected to there? They say that is your family, whatever it is, you have to deal with it. You shouldn't let it come out. Okay, you should be sportive enough to take it up. You should not complain against them. All things like this. So are we not sending wrong messages? Are we not somehow indirectly encouraging women assault by women again, indirectly caused? I mean, by the Western.
Which is why sensitization at all levels is required.
Exactly. So how do we bring about that change?
That change cannot be done overnight. We cannot expect
Yes,
it overnight at all. But then now with the nuclear families and such setup, we see a decline in such, though it is widespread, we see that I have a particular instance where the lady who came to me, my client is a doctor, she got married and went to the USA. The husband is there. She was to join for masters there and then work. That was the idea. The husband's brother and mother are in Bangalore. The mother calls up every day, Skype, and tells the son what he should do that day, and tells the daughter-in-law what she should cook that day, and tells the son that he should keep the daughter under control. Well, it happens today, but still it is not as it used to be earlier. We see that there is a decline, and probably in 2 generations we will see that such a thing is like how we talk in those olden days. Just hope that.
Mother-in-law has a season and daughter-in-law also has a season.
Just one season. The importance of sexification.
Very important.
The importance.
But here, I mean, another point is a small point which I would like to make is here the perception of the mother-in-law is that the daughter-in-law, the girl has been married to her son just to keep her family going, to produce a child. Okay, where the mother-in-law tells her daughter-in-law, I just wanted a girl for my son. That's all, nothing else. What do you mean a girl? Girl is a human being, not an object or nothing. Where you can just purchase and come, and then replace if you don't like her or whatever. So there's the human value. Now what happens to the daughter-in-law? She goes into isolation, depression, whatever terms you name. Then the dignity, self-dignity is lost. It's being, she loses everything, all the self-dignity, respect, confidence, all those things. Why? Because of a fellow woman.
I would like to bring it back to the legal perspective here, right? So, what happens in these kind of scenarios? As something is happening within a house, it might not ever come out, right? So, how does it compare with other countries? Because these sort of things do happen in other countries as well. Domestic violence. So, how does it compare? Where does our legal standpoint is, and where is there?
Yeah, exactly.
Domestic violence here in India, it has been recognized only of late. We had the 2005 Act being enacted, came into force in 2006.
Right.
So from then on we have the Domestic Violence Act, which is not as effective and as effective as we would like it to be. And there is a lot to be desired, but still it is quite vibrant. And in time, I feel with a little bit, because there are a lot of loopholes in the Domestic Violence Act that needs major amendments. But the Domestic Violence Act in its present avatar, it has given a lot of relief to many women. But when we compare Domestic Violence Act in other countries, they are all advanced. When we see domestic violence is highly prevalent in Australia, but then their laws are much more stronger than ours. We will get there one day.
In support of your point, because there is no evidence for such things.
So it becomes difficult, but then the Domestic Violence Act in section 32 clearly says that the sole testimony of a woman is sufficient.
Really?
Yes.
So, madam,
So law is very-
once we sent your tweets around, there are a lot of people asking, is that two-finger test really there even now? Because some people are saying Supreme Court kind of stuck it down. Is it still happening?
It is there.
It is there.
It is there. It is there.
So you
Maharashtra, it is not there.
Is it a state?
Maharashtra, it is
state
not. Yes,
discretion?
yes, yes. It is
So
the
some
state.
states
No,
have it, some states
actually, the law does not prescribe any kind of tests. It is for the doctors to check what they would want to do. And in Karnataka, it is still practiced.
Anyways, I mean, the point that you made, the two-finger test is actually futile if the woman says married or is already into a relationship. It doesn't in any way prove that she's been violated against her consent. So I think it's futile, but I think it's Victorian, as you said, and it's just continued since then after that. Anyway, we'll wait for your talk to finish. There are a few more questions that have come in, and so maybe you can just take them as well.
And in families, coming back to the role of families, there should be open discussion, which we don't see in many families. Don't even use terms which may have some sexual connotation openly. And again, that is subjective because we never know whether such a open discussion would be required at home or not, and how much would be enough or how much would be too much. And to teach boys to respect women. Once that starts, the intrinsic values once they are instilled in a man, in a boy, he grows up to be a man who respects women. And as I mentioned, girls also should be taught that they are not ones to be treasured and protected. And they should behave in a way that doesn't show that they are vulnerable. And respect for women, once that is part of socialization of children, then it would mean that there is less disrespectful behavior towards girls. Then another aspect is the community participation, which I strongly feel that a group of people can form some kind of a community or an organization together and be vigilant for such whatever happens in their particular locality, and have established contact with the police, with the doctors, with counselors, and with the people. To have that network set in, where they help the police in ensuring that the needs and whatever is required by the citizens of that locality is taken care of. So that they can give out their number or numbers for people to contact. But then here one problem would be that anonymity may be lost. Anonymity of the victim may be lost. But this may bring down crime, because if within a neighborhood, if there is a community working towards helping people who have undergone sexual violence, then we see that the perpetrator may hesitate because the persons are all known people. He will know. So there are chances that the perpetrator does not commit that crime. And
So what was the point again? So you want people to
Form-
openly associate and say,
form committee, their own citizen participation group, or whatever name that you may call it by. You just have a group of people who network with police, with the locals, maybe educate them and tell them that there is such a group available.
More or less like the community watch.
Where help is available and help is there at hand, then they can help the police to take over this one for counselling and anything that may be required. The participation of community in that. And society should give out a message of zero tolerance for crime against women. And what schools can do is about lessons in school about sex education and also about crime, how to stop it and how to prevent it and what to do if at all such a crime occurs. And also instill the value of respect for women in society and ensure that commodification and objectification of women is not there. And sensitization classes to help people in distress and to send out a message which said that if the girl could be sent to Singapore, send them to Saudi for speedy dispensation of justice. So these are all emotional things. We have to be bound, we are bound by our laws and our laws are pretty good. Only thing is that we need a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of amendment to ensure that whatever is required of the law is given by the law to us.
So you think law is good, it's just the execution?
Execution and law needs amendment, yes, because as we see the punishment for rape I think is not sufficient. Because the section also gives there is the prerogative of the judge who can reduce it even below the 7 or 10 years if he has any reason. He has to just give the reason why it is 3 years and not 7 years. And he has to give it in writing. That doesn't serve the purpose at all.
I have a question on marital rape. You mentioned that IPC does not recognize marital rape, although it recognizes any violation during judicial separation, and it recognizes if there is violence accompanying marital rape under the domestic provision of Domestic Violence Act. So, if in a marriage relationship a man forces a woman to have sex or intercourse and forces it by physical violence, then it is something that can be taken to law. But if it is coercion which is not violence, then it cannot be taken, right?
So she is hurt.
Yeah.
If there is anything else which attracts any other provision of IPC.
So I suppose it's more, if it's physical or violent, then it takes, or if it is unnatural in that sense, then it goes to the law. And I'm hearing a lot of voices, perhaps in the context of the environment that we are in, about having legislations to also govern marital rape. So my question to you is that, in your experience of handling these cases, how relevant do you think is legislation for marital rape, or so how relevant is it, and do you think the state must interfere in personal life of a couple? For example, conversation between husband and wife is classified as per law. Should we therefore keep out of the bedrooms of people and not try and go there, or does your experience say differently, that we need to have?
As long as there is no violence, law should not enter the bedroom or anywhere else between the husband and wife. But when it becomes violent, then definitely it is required that. And is there any protection for women just because she is within the 4 walls of the bedroom? Who guarantees her protection?
But doesn't that Domestic Violence Act cover that?
It only gives protection insofar as removing her from there and putting her in a shelter home. The man can go free.
Are you saying that if she complains for being assaulted, and she goes to
domestic violence?
Yeah, she says,
domestic violence.
I have been hit because I refused to have intercourse with my husband.
That is physical violence. That will not come under sexual violence.
Okay.
Sexual violence is violence in the act of sex.
Okay. So you suggest that there be a law which covers marital rape, provided it is accompanied by violence?
Marital rape, if the woman wishes to continue living with the husband, she should refrain from that. But then, if the offence is serious See, there have been instances where people have approached us saying that it is unnatural inserting of various substances into the woman. Those, if she's okay with it, it is fine. I mean, nobody can question.
Yeah, but those instances are covered by law, right?
That is covered, but no, not insertion of bottles and stuff like that. No.
Just one point, just before coming to the session, I was pretty certain that for rapists there should be death penalty, but after hearing your
You changed it.
the thing is, on the point of consent, which you start being well into, it seems to me that the law doesn't really inspire my confidence. Because if you're essentially saying that a woman says that it wasn't my consent and that's about it. So I think that's...
No, the onus shifts on to the accused. It doesn't mean that he is convicted. The trial has to go on. He should be proved to be guilty.
So actually, the principle of guilt, he's assumed to be guilty from that point onwards.
No, what is actually believed is that a woman normally will not lie all these things, but then we never know. I also say that when there is amendment, there should also be an inbuilt section under this or wherever applicable, that if it is a false case, she should be punished. So that should come in, not just in this, even in domestic violence for that matter. Because Domestic Violence Act also, they just say something and then if it is proved otherwise, or if they are not able to prove their case, the woman just goes scot-free.
No,
But, yeah, here your question.
Going ahead, is there any really, apart from going into the two people, the victim and the aggressor, is there any other way of really ensuring that there was consent or not? There's no other way.
The medical examination. Medical examination is for that reason.
Forced one or
Yes.
doctors.
There are methods, you can check in the internet, they have a whole set of how it is tested.
As long as there is an objective way of ensuring that nobody is lying.
See, that also is the prerogative of the doctors, how they want to take it. There is no set.
And there are other complications in terms of when it is reported, when the
Act
victim
took
goes
place
from...
and then when it was reported and when she went for a checkup and when she gave the statement.
So, there are a lot of things which can get lost.
But I think this gets too dangerously close to the privacy issue, because you say law can't go into the bedroom, irrespective of forced or unforced sex. Most people end up having sex in a bedroom only. Then if someone wants to prove it, then invariably someone will say, okay, let me start recording everything. Now everything goes out of the window then.
No, but these
the
are
privacy issue is very complicated. These are very
complications,
complications.
These are the
Because
complications.
you saying, okay, at one point they may say, okay, I had consent. Suddenly the motives changes at some time just for the legal aspect.
No,
And
for that they have to undergo the medical test. Medical test is not conclusive and medical test is not the only thing. They will have to, when it is trial,
So what I'm trying to say is, even
they have to stand the test of cross-examination.
the point is, because as much as
See,
it
in my
is
experience, I've seen many people crumble during cross-examination,
okay.
which is one of the reasons that I don't know, it is very difficult for a woman who complains sexual harassment to go to court and stand cross-examination,
it's
even if it is true, because
It is said that the lawyer picks her like once again. It is said like that.
everywhere, from police to the doctors, to the prosecutors, to the lawyers, the society.
Yeah.
Does the society spare her?
Because as much as it's a torture for a woman, there are cases where even guys don't feel that comfortable, going out there in the open and saying, okay, because there are a lot of well-mannered, good character, personality guys who say, okay, I am being victimized at times. This is, it's so case-based.
There have been many instances where a law which is supposed to be beneficial for women are misused and abused.
Did you come across any cases in your career so far?
Yes, I have.
also true for the Dowry Act. You know,
It's
now
pretty
actually-
misused,
Out of 100
especially
times,
in urban areas. Pretty misused.
But then now it is diluted to
Yeah.
a great extent.
It is, but
I mean, which exactly is one point or at least couple of points you say, okay, these are the definitive way forward now. How can we actually put a firewall so that the mindset actually changes? Do you have any couple of points?
Mindset, the changing of mindset cannot be done overnight.
No, that's accepted.
That
But
is
at least, which is the way you...
Amendment in laws, instill fear, and educate.
And another question, we have a comparative study between, you said the police force, especially the women police force needs to be, I think Tamil Nadu stands right on top,
Yes,
especially
yes,
women
yes.
police, and followed by Maharashtra. How is it compared to other southern states? Like Karnataka actually is in the third place. Right now this government says, okay, we're going to have extra 3,000 women police force compared to 3,000 that only exist. So how is
No,
it?
more than having more number of women, we need sensitive women. Sensitive women in the police force. Because when we see the police, they are all the same kind of mindset, irrespective of whether they are men or women.
No gender.
We are only talking about women police so that the victim feels comfortable in approaching them, thinking that she is talking to a woman.
I mean, how good is it in Tamil Nadu? I have no idea. But the way they portray in movies
I
and...
don't have first-hand experience with police force in Tamil Nadu,
Okay.
but I'm told that it is pretty good.
They have separate women's cell as such?
Sorry?
They have a separate women's cell as such?
Yes, they have the number of women police stations is, I think it is number 1 in Tamil Nadu.
I know the count is at 11,300 or if I'm right.
Which is at the lowest?
I just had one question.
At the bottom? Bottom.
Do you think it is actually about the deficiency in the law, or is it about implementation of the law and the judicial process that is the hindrance in delivering not just justice in cases of sexual violence, but even otherwise, but more so in the case of violence against women? Is it the whole judicial process that is very convoluted and that is failing the system?
That is one of the major reasons, but I would not say that that is the main reason. Judicial process is excruciatingly slow. It is very slow, and when we compare it with the judicial systems in other jurisdictions, I spoke to a lawyer from Indonesia, where we were just discussing about how the judicial process is in each country. He was telling that in his country it is very slow, the whole system is very slow, which is why the alternate dispute resolution methods is coming up in a big way. So I asked him how long does it take. He told me that for a normal case it takes about 6 months for the case to be disposed of. And we come from a jurisdiction where it takes 6 months for the notice of a case to be sent to the others.
As a statistic, what is the average time that it takes for cases of sexual violence to get...
No, there is no average. No, it's very difficult to tell that this is the... It varies. It varies.
At least what is the highest,
Yeah.
longest it has taken, and what is the...
Here I think it is about 6 to 8 years is the average.
For a sexual case.
And that's the maximum punishment that can be given in this case. Right? So, over and done.
One question. It says, it's just a statement as well as a question. The statement is that someone was saying English is a beautiful language, daughter-in-law. It's not a lie. Malayalam we call it Marumagal. Okay. For daughter-in-law, for daughter we call it Magal.
In Tamil also is the same thing.
So it's not only English lesson. One other question is, I have faced from my relatives, how can we prevent women from misusing this? Because see, there is a person who needs divorce, and she's saying that she will not sign unless she gives him this much amount of money, or else she will file this case and she will remove him, means throw him out of his job. So how do we do that? Or to put it in another way, so suppose if an incident happens, what is the time frame in which the woman has to report. Say she's living with a person with so many years, and say 4 years, and then after she complains that
See, if it is not reported immediately, the case loses its strength.
okay, that is what any time
Time is there. 20 years. 7 years is for dowry harassment. Dowry harassment. For each, there is a limitation act.
Does the victim get a
What
chance
I
to
prevent it is by incorporating a section or something. See that if it is misused, there is a penalty.
But there is no penalty right now.
No.
that's what that woman goes scot free.
Does the victim get to reopen the case in case of a juvenile and he is convicted for say for 3 years? The victim is still living, she is bound to feel there is no justice being done. Does she get a chance to reopen once he is attained maturity? No.
Because we have the
But she
principle
can
of res
reappeal,
judicata.
right?
Under the constitution, a person cannot be tried twice for the same offence.
No, but can't she go to the higher?
Higher.
Appeal against this, that is also
But
guaranteed
then-
under the
But his
constitution.
age at the time of crime
Oh,
would be
the time.
Yes.
not when.
No, not during trial.
Excuse me, this rape and these offences against women, they are all bailable or non-bailable?
What is your
Like
understanding of bailable and non-bailable?
Because till the dispensation of justice is over,
With
the process.
non-bailable offences, bail can be obtained. Bail can be obtained in non-bailable offences. So these are non-bailable.
Basically.
Against body is non-bailable. But it is the discretion of the court to grant bail.
And regarding punishment, we were talking about the life sentence. Many people are under the view that it is the lifelong, but there is a stipulation now. What is the maximum life?
Life sentence, life
Lifelong.
imprisonment means life imprisonment.
Supposed to be through
But-
his end of the life.
Yes.
Youthful
That is
life.
what it
That
is.
is 60
But for
65
good
years.
behavior, jail manuals and all other, they prescribe, they say that they can be let off on good behavior if they have reformed.
But still there is no stipulation of a minimum punishment. Suppose a person has been sentenced to life and there is any minimum stipulation.
For about 14, 15 years.
Generally.
14 years.
14 years.
Okay, no, that's same. You clear.
Any more questions? Anyway, so I think we've had a very engaging session, and we've had an audience that's been seeing us and have sent us their questions. The talk has been very useful in the sense that it is something that's on everybody's mind right now, and therefore it will go a long way in educating people to some extent, and also maybe building some kind of gender sensitivity. And I hope a lot more men watch this program than women, and so that we can make a better society. But thank you so much for coming, and it's been a